back guys to episode 3 of the Project Jude devlog series. Previously we added movement, dashing, and these AI things that look, yeah, they don't look good. So it's probably time to make them look good, or at least try to. Now before we begin, I would greatly appreciate it if you were to subscribe. It's completely free and you can change your mind later. So currently all the models are being made in Blender, but there is one issue. I'm kind of bad at Blender, which is why I spent a decent amount of time trying to find a good workflow, whatever that means. I'm guessing you guys don't care about that though, so here is the model that I made. I went for a stylized lower poly aesthetic because I like games like that. It's also a lot easier to make, it's kind of just the bevel tool. I then dragged it into Unity and set it up, which was surprisingly really easy to do. I guess I managed to make the AI system pretty flexible. The mechanics of the AI haven't changed, and there are still some alterations that need to be made, but I didn't feel like doing that this week. Instead, I created some new materials for the AI to make it look actually finished and nice. I also created a shader that allows for any material to produce this emissive glow. I applied that to the laser and the arms of the robot. At this point, I was pretty invested into AI and modeling, so I made a list of different enemies that I want in my game. This list will have more additions in the future, but for the time being, 6 will definitely do. I decided to start making the turret robot first. Once again in Blender, I created a stylized model. The majority of this was done on my Twitch actually, I did some alterations off stream though. In Unity, I slapped on some colours and it actually looks pretty neat. I started working on the mechanics for the AI, but didn't have time to fully finish it this week. At this point, the turret will rotate towards the player, if in range. Once it locks onto the player at least once, it goes into an attack state. This is where its speed increases, which means it will turn a lot faster. The turret will now also fire bullets towards the player, but that part doesn't work just yet. I did however create the VFX for these bullets and some little explosions, but once again, they're just not implemented. So you may remember we have a pistol in the game. Now that's pretty cool, but the model doesn't fit the aesthetic of the game so well. So I created a new pistol model, with less detail and a more low poly style. This is what it looks like in the game. Now I'm gonna be honest, this simpler style is a lot easier to make and in my opinion looks pretty nice either way. The textures for this are also some simple colours and I didn't go into much detail. I also decided to alter the sword ever so slightly. I added a cut in the blade and more details towards the handle. It just makes it look more like a sword in the game and not just a long stick. Although that would be pretty funny, imagine running around with a stick in your hand. Finally, to make the sword attacks feel more impactful, I made the camera rotate with the sword. Typically, whenever you melee attack in any game, there is some sort of camera shape, but for mine, I wanted the camera to rotate with the sword to make it look like you're actually swinging it. This is completely adjustable on how intense you want it, but I currently like it this way. So, I got many new suggestions in my previous devlog, and a lot of people said to add weapon sway. Now, weapon sway is the weapon moving all on its own while you aim down the sight. Wait, what? Anyways, with one simple script, weapon sway was in the game. This makes it look like the player is actually holding a considerably heavy weapon. I made a separate script for the weapon bobbing. This is slightly more advanced as it looks at the player's speed and momentum, but it 100% makes it feel nicer. Thank you guys for those awesome suggestions. I then started creating another weapon to add into the game. Now just to warn you, this weapon is not implemented yet. I want to add a shuriken which the player can throw, but it will act like a boomerang, essentially meaning that once you throw it, it will return to you. And if it hits a surface, you will be able to call it back with a press of a button. The only thing that I actually managed to make for this was the model and some UI elements in the game. But let me know if you want to see this weapon in the game or not, because I'm not sure just yet. So you may remember that I want my player to have abilities. That's what the devlog is actually about, so I think I should probably show you what I did. I want the player to have a shooty projectile thing from his hand. Now what a lot of games have is a spell ability, where the player can shoot these things from his hand. For example, Second Son does this and it allows the player to have more range, which is pretty cool. I basically want that in my game. So I first set up some animations for this ability. This actually took a decent amount of time. I made a new animation state for the player and then started setting up all the code in Visual Studio. What I did is if the player isn't currently holding anything, he/she is able to press Alt to bring out their hands. and pressing Alt again will hide the arms, just a toggle system. This then allows the player to cast different abilities / spells. Right now I focused on the projectile one. Pressing left click would trigger the shooting ability. So to actually create the projectile, I made some VFX in Unity. Also, for those wanting to get better at particles and VFX, check out Gabriel. He makes some awesome content on YouTube. Using a raycast, I determined the fire line, and then moved the projectile along that line. On impact, I made it destroy itself and create yet another VFX particle system. Finally, to bring it all together, I added some orbs into the player's arms to make it look like he's actually spellcasting. And to make it have more impact, I added a small camera shake upon firing. I also made the abilities deal damage to the enemies. Right now, this ability is really OP, with no cooldown, so I will be implementing a sort of power bar soon. But that is all that I had time for this week. Apart from that, I did some minor bug fixes, but that's kind of boring and people don't want to hear about that. I also did some testing in the game to see how high the player can jump and small features like that. These small little things I won't be showing in my videos because people aren't really interested in that, but if you are, do comment down below. I should also mention, if you have any suggestions for the game, comment down below. I really look at the comments every single time I release a video, and your guys' suggestions are usually super awesome. I also have to say that streaming for now will be paused. This is because I genuinely just have a lot going on right now, a lot of university deadlines and working on this game, and streaming 4 times a week is currently not possible, so sorry about that guys. Also, some people have been asking for a demo of this game. Now it will be out soon, and you will see sneak peeks on my Patreons and Twitter, so make sure you follow me down below. I should mention, before releasing a demo, I want to kind of iron down some bugs and make sure that there's actually something to do in the game, because otherwise it'll just be kind of boring. Also, thank you to my Patreons, TARDIS IT Guy and Smoking Vita. Anyway guys, thank you so much for the support and for watching this video, and I will see you guys later. Bye!